The trenches of no man's land, a desolate labyrinth of mud, blood and barbed wire. The air heavy with the stench of death. Rain hammered the trenches relentlessly, each shell crater a grim reminder of the relentless barrage. Here, amidst the desolation, Captain Rourke's platoon huddled. Their faces, hardened by war, reflected the grim reality of their situation. They were soldiers, but they were also sons, brothers, fathers. Now they were trapped in a nightmare. As dusk descended, a new horror emerged. A thick, eerie fog began to rise from the trenches. It swirled and pulsed an otherworldly presence. The air, already thick with tension, grew heavy with dread. The fog was unnatural, its movement swift and deliberate. It seemed to seep into the men's very bones, chilling them to the core.
I've seen my fair share of horrors, but this fog, it's different. It's alive.
An unsettling silence descended upon the battlefield. The air, once filled with the deafening roar of artillery and the cries of soldiers, now felt heavy and oppressive. It was as if the very essence of war had been sucked out, leaving behind a void that was both eerie and unnerving. The constant barrage of artillery fire ceased. The relentless pounding that had become a grim lullaby to the soldiers was no more. The silence was so profound that it felt almost tangible, pressing down on them like an invisible weight. Even the rats that infested the trenches seemed to vanish. These creatures, which had thrived in the chaos and carnage, were now nowhere to be seen. It was as if they sensed something ominous, something far more terrifying than the war itself. The fog muffled all sound, creating an eerie vacuum. The thick, soupy mist enveloped everything, swallowing up any noise and leaving the soldiers feeling isolated and vulnerable. It was a silence that spoke volumes, a silence that hinted at unseen dangers lurking just beyond their sight.
I can't see anything, but I can feel it. There's something lurking in that mist. The words were barely a whisper, but they carried a weight of fear and uncertainty. The soldier's eyes darted around, trying to pierce the impenetrable fog, his breath coming in short, shallow gasps.
Rourke scanned the fog-choked landscape, his senses on high alert. Every nerve in his body was screaming at him to be ready, to expect the unexpected. The fog played tricks on his eyes, shapes and shadows shifting and morphing in the periphery of his vision. His hand tightened around his rifle, his knuckles white. The weapon was a comforting weight, a reminder of his training and his purpose. Yet in this moment, it felt almost insignificant against the unknown threat that seemed to loom ever closer. Then, a sound. A low growl, guttural and primal, echoed through the fog. It was a sound that didn't belong on any battlefield, a sound that spoke of ancient primal fears. It reverberated through the mist, sending ripples of dread through the hearts of the soldiers. It sent shivers down the spines of even the most hardened soldiers. These men, who had faced death countless times, now found themselves gripped by a fear they couldn't understand. Their eyes widened and their breaths quickened as the growl seemed to grow louder, more insistent. Rourke's blood ran cold. This was no ordinary enemy. The realization hit him like a physical blow, and he knew that whatever was out there in the fog was something beyond their comprehension, something that defied the very nature of the war they were fighting. The fog parted momentarily, revealing a horrifying sight. The air was thick with tension, every soldier's breath held in anticipation of the unknown. A creature of immense size and power, its eyes glowing red in the mist. It stood like a nightmare made flesh, an abomination that defied all logic and reason. Its claws, razor-sharp, dripped with a viscous black fluid. Each drop sizzled as it hit the ground, a testament to the creature's otherworldly nature. A grotesque parody of life born of the battlefield's despair. It moved with a terrifying grace, each step echoing the cries of the fallen.
What in the hell is that? The soldier's voice trembled, a mix of fear and disbelief.
Screams pierced the silence as the beast attacked. The once orderly ranks of soldiers descended into chaos, their training forgotten in the face of such horror. Men were torn limb from limb, their cries swallowed by the fog. The beast moved with a savage efficiency, each strike a death sentence. The stench of blood and viscera filled the air, mingling with the cloying sweetness of the fog. It was a scene from the darkest nightmares, a hellscape where hope seemed lost.
Keep firing, don't let up. The command was desperate, a last-ditch effort to hold the line.
It's not going down! What is this thing? Panic spread like wildfire, the soldiers' faces masks of terror.
We need to fall back, now! The urgency in his voice was unmistakable, a clear sign that the situation was dire.
Rourke and his men fired blindly into the mist, their bullets seemingly having no effect. The creature seemed invincible, a force of nature that could not be stopped. As the fog thickened, the soldiers' hope waned, replaced by a growing sense of dread. They had faced many horrors in the war, but nothing like this. The beast was a living nightmare, a harbinger of doom that threatened to consume them all. In the midst of the chaos, Rourke's mind raced, searching for a way to survive. The fog closed in, and with it the beast's relentless assault. The battle was far from over, and the soldiers knew they were fighting for their very lives. Rourke's eyes narrowed with determination. "We can't let it win," he muttered to himself, rallying his men for one final stand. The beast may have been a terror, but they were soldiers, and they would fight to the last breath. With renewed resolve, the soldiers regrouped, ready to face the beast once more. The fog may have been thick, but their courage was thicker. The battle for survival had only just begun. Section 5. A ghastly harvest. The attack was swift and brutal. One by one, Rourke's men were dragged screaming into the fog. Their weapons fell silent, replaced by the sickening crunch of bone and the gurgling gasps of the dying.
Rourke, his eyes wide with terror, fought with the desperation of a man possessed. He emptied his rifle into the swirling mist, the recoil bruising his shoulder. But it was no use. The beast was relentless, its hunger insatiable.
Section 6. Rourke's ordeal. The fog swirled around Rourke, constricting him, choking him. He could feel the beast's hot, fetid breath on his neck. Its claws raked at his back, tearing through his uniform, drawing blood. He fell to his knees, his strength failing. Despair threatened to consume him. He closed his eyes, waiting for the end. But the end did not come.
He opened his eyes to find the fog receding. The beast was gone, vanished back into the abyss from which it came. He was alone, surrounded by the mangled corpses of his men. Rourke stumbled to his feet, his body racked with pain and his mind teetering on the edge of madness. He looked around at the carnage, his heart pounding in his chest. The silence was deafening. He was the only survivor, the sole witness to the horrors that had transpired in the fog.
He staggered back to the Allied lines, his mind a whirlwind of confusion and terror. He tried to explain what he had seen, but his words tumbled out in a jumbled mess. No one believed him.
Rourke was discharged from the army, his body broken, his mind shattered. He returned home a hero, but he felt like a ghost. He was haunted by nightmares, by the memory of the fog and the beast. He tried to rebuild his life, but the scars of that night ran deep. He could not escape the memories, the screams, the stench of death. The fog had left an indelible mark on his soul.
He withdrew from the world, seeking solace in solitude. He became a recluse, haunted by the past.
Years later, Rourke found himself drawn back to the battlefields of France. He stood on a windswept hill overlooking the killing fields. The trenches were gone, reclaimed by nature, but the memories remained. As he stood there, a familiar chill ran down his spine. He looked up and saw it. The fog, it was back.
It rolled in from the east, silent and swift. It swirled around the base of the hill as if searching for something. Rourke's heart pounded in his chest. He could feel it, the presence.
And then he heard it. The growl. It was a sound that had haunted his dreams for years, a sound that seemed to come from the very depths of the earth. It was a reminder of the battles fought and the lives lost, a sound that could freeze the blood in his veins, low and guttural, echoing across the years. The beast was back. It was a creature born of war, a manifestation of the fear and pain that had seeped into the soil of the battlefield. Its growl was a call to the fallen, a reminder that their sacrifices had not been forgotten. Rourke closed his eyes, a single tear rolling down his cheek. He had seen so much, endured so much, and yet the memories were as fresh as the day they were made. The faces of his comrades, the sounds of battle, the smell of gunpowder and blood, they were all etched into his mind, never to be erased. The fog, it seemed, was eternal. It was a shroud that covered the land, hiding the scars of war but never truly healing them. It was a constant presence, a reminder of the past that could never be escaped, a haunting reminder of the horrors of war. The fog was like a ghost, drifting silently over the battlefield, whispering the names of the fallen. It was a symbol of the pain and suffering that had been endured, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, a symbol of the darkness that lurks at the edge of human experience. And the beast, it was waiting. It was a creature of the night, a predator that thrived in the shadows. It was a reminder that even in the darkest times there is always something lurking, waiting to strike, waiting for the fog to clear, waiting for its next victim. The beast was patient. It had all the time in the world. It knew that eventually someone would come, someone who would be drawn to the battlefield, to the memories and the pain. And when they did, the beast would be ready.
Rourke knew then that the horrors of no man's land would never truly die. They were a part of him, a part of the land, a part of history. The memories of the fallen, the pain and the suffering, they would live on, forever etched into the fabric of time. They would live on, forever shrouded in the fog, a chilling testament to the beast within us all. The fog was a reminder that the past is never truly gone, that the memories of war and the pain of loss are always with us. It was a symbol of the darkness that lies within us all, a reminder that we must always be vigilant, always be ready to face the beast.